Hey guys, so today's topic on the Mystic Meet is on the core concepts of Tantra Yoga. And I know I've talked about Tantra Yoga several times before, and it is definitely, a path that I had chosen to really kind of take seriously and get to know a lot more about. So as everybody's like kind of jumping on, very nice to see everybody. How are you? So this is great. Today's topic, Tantra, it's such a broad topic. And I was always fascinated, and I believe I've done this in many lives, but a lot of Tantra is really philosophy. It's so much of its teachings come as a inspiration through meditation, inspiration through a lot of penance that was done by these adepts. And the true origin or the timing of when Tantra originated in the East, I want to say, is around it's an AD time, so it was like around 400 AD, 500 AD, in and the area where it's supposed to originate from is northern India. So it's like Kashmir, and the area of northern India is where it originally took birth. Its concepts took birth, and initially it was just Trika Tantra. It was just called as Trika Tantra, which to me, like when you look at the teachings and the drawings of Trika Tantra or the ancient texts, to me they very much are similar to the Kabbalah, and I always see the similarity between the Kabbalah and Trika Tantra, and so that always really caught my attention, is the how it originated in the East at a certain time. And I always feel like this type of knowledge, this type of sacred knowledge that is very much related, in my opinion, to ancient Hermetics, is it's all about vibration. It's all about energizing the body. It's all about expanding your consciousness. So it's so much related to Hermetics. And as I had mentioned in the previous lives, that Hermetics kind of has resurfaced in so many different civilizations as different aspects of the philosophy, taught in the form of Kabbalah, taught in the form of Tantra, and even Tantra gets divided, and I'll go into that, how Tantra, the concept of Tantra is divided into so many different parts. Thank you, Ben, I appreciate that. So let's understand what Tantra means. So Tantra basically means expansion. So it means an expansion of your mind, an expansion of your consciousness, an expansion of your beingness as a individual. So it's very different from the Vedic understanding of attainment of the divine. It's a very different understanding from the Vedic concepts. Ultimately, the path is different, but the goal is one. In the Vedas, it's more of like surrender and just give yourself to the divine, and ultimately you leave this physical body, and a lot of Advaita philosophy, or the one that is taught by Shankaracharya, is very much about the body being not a part of who we really are. Like our consciousness is everything, and the physical reality is like something that's holding us back from attaining the divine. Whereas in Tantra, they look at it very differently. They think of the physical reality very much being a part of the divine, very much being a part, all being one. And this is the same principle that is understood in the Kabbalic teachings, in the Gnostic teachings, and in the Tantric teachings. It's very much about attainment of the divine within your physical body, within your physical being. And so the initial text of one of the most ancient texts of tantric teachings was written by an adept called as his name was Vasudeva Gupta, and his knowledge came through meditation. The story goes that in his meditative state, Lord Shiva came to him and gave him the teachings in his sleep. And then another story actually says that he was told to go to a particular place in Kashmir, in the mountains, to look at a stone that had these teachings engraved in them. Now, the first book that was written on Trika Tantra was called the Shiva Stotra. And the Shiva Stotra was a text that had about 77 verses. It had about, and it was divided into 3 sections. So the text was divided into 3 sections for 3 reasons. So for the first part of the text, it was dedicated to those who really they were not into material gain. They were not into the material world. All they wanted was a straight connection to the divine. And that's all they were on this path for. So the first section of the Shiva Stotra is dedicated to those individuals. It had the verses are meditations, are different types of ways in which one can acquire this, the divine in this particular section, like cater to those individuals. The second part of the book was for individuals that were on the path of Shakti. And I know I mentioned Shakti to you before. Shakti is power. Shakti is energy. Shakti is what the divine creation is made of. That creative spark is Shakti. So the second part of this book is related to those that want to be on the part of Shakti in Tantrika Tantra, and the Shakti worshippers, or the Shakti worshippers worship the goddess energy, worship the energy of Kali, Saraswati. In northern India it is Saraswati, in southern India it is Tripura Sundari. So different goddesses, but they worship the goddess. They do worship Shiva too, and I'll talk about how it divides when the Tantra gets divided, but they also worship Shiva. However, the importance is given to the feminine, or the feminine energy, the creative energy. The third part, and the second part is for those that are willing to gain material wealth, material abundance, material gains in this physical world. They want to gain power. They want to gain awareness of an expanded state of consciousness so they can perform their day-to-day tasks in a more controlled and I want to say like more godlike state, where what you think kind of, you're manifesting things, and that's where the law of, manifestation comes in. And we can go into Shakti Tantra in another topic, but this one I just wanted to keep it broad on the concepts of Tantra. The third aspect of the Shiva Stotram is for those that have that are taking baby steps. So it's for those that really just want to take it really slow and understand slowly. They don't want to be bombarded with a lot of, practices or rituals to perform. Most of the tantric practices are ritualistic, and they're very much related to mantras and certain rituals that are performed. I know there's a certain understanding of Tantra when it comes to the Western world, and this is where I'll discuss how Tantra is divided into 2 aspects of Tantra, like a Northern Tantra and a Southern Tantra. The Northern Tantra is the Kashmiri Shaivism, and this is like a group that kind of divided over the years because they disagreed on how it should be practiced. So they divided it into 2 aspects. The groups got divided. So the group that was, of the belief that, this practice has to be done alone and individually. It is more of a connection to the divine rather than a connection to the material world, ended up being a part of the Dakshina, or the southern aspect of Tantra, and the Shiva Tantra, or the northern aspect of Tantra, are those that, believed more of, that followed more of, I want to say, like the Kabbalistic and the Gnostic teachings. Like they kind of resonate with that. Their teachings resonate with that. I don't want to say that they're derived from it, but they're very similar to it in understanding of the practice. So the practice was more, it was with a partner, it was done in a ritualistic way. They allowed for, having that material life where, alcohol was allowed, having a partner was allowed, meat was allowed. So it was like a very different practice. It was like indulging in the material world and connecting to the divine. So that was the path of the Shiva Tantra. The Dakshina Marga, or the Kalava Tantra, or the one that was more of southern adepts, the southern adepts, were almost like a little inclined towards Advaita, or like the practice of monkhood, or the practice of, giving up a lot of the material things, giving up relationships, giving up, being celibate, and every single act. It was still a practice of connecting the masculine and the feminine. However, it was an internal practice. It was a practice through rituals where they worship something called as the Sri Chakra. If you kind of scroll down my Instagram page, I go to the Kailash ashram in southern India, and they practice Kala Tantra. And what they do is like they worship the Sri Chakra, which is a geometric shape. It's like the Sri Yantra in like a 3D aspect of the Sri Yantra, and the Sri Chakra is worshipped, and basically it is nothing but the climbing of the Kundalini, or the Shakti, all the way up to the top to meet Shiva. And it's a sexual kind of understanding of it, but in a devotional way. That it is all happening it is done by the Mother Divine with Shiva. So it is something that is external to them, even though it is during a lot of the tantric texts and the mantras talk about the beauty of the mother and the beauty of the goddess. It is all given as a part of devotion to the goddess. The Shiva Tantras believe that the energy of the masculine and the feminine are equal. They are the masculine Shiva. They're also, they're worshippers of Shiva, but at the same time give equal importance to Shakti as well. And their practices are pretty strict. So it is not like how you understand a sexual, interaction, just kind of, it's like, a blissful hours of, sexual practice. It's very different from that. So the core understanding of ancient, if you go to the ancient tantric texts, and I'm not talking about, doing something that's like, thank you. It's not something that you can understand from the more recent, even the recent, I want to say, practitioners of tantric yoga. The ancient texts discuss a sexual practice in which it was about taking the spark, or taking that energy between the union, taking the energy from one chakra to the next chakra to the next chakra. So it was not a release of energy, it was a pulling up of the energy into each chakra, going all the way to the crown. And that is the ultimate aim of the Shiva Marga, or the Trika Tantra in a sexual practice. So it was something where you are in union, and then you separate to perform a ritual, and then you come back to take every time you're raising your kundalini to a higher state, higher level. So it definitely is not how you understand, how sexual tantra is depicted these days, it's definitely way more intricate than that, what Shiva Tantra is. And that is where the power is, So even though you would hear someone say, oh, well, I practice, sexual tantra, and then the whole ultimate aim of Shiva Tantra is to gain siddhis, or to gain powers. It's a part of the Shakti Marga, in which you attain powers while doing the worship. And the same is the Marga of the southern Kalava Tantra too, only thing that they do not have an external practice of sexual. I mean, they're not with a partner. It is more of a devotional way of in their rituals, they're having the mother and Shiva, who's the father, unite in a ritual. And that's why all of these, even they worship in the Sri Vidya, which is the southern aspect of Tantra. They worship 10 goddesses, and the 10 goddesses, Radha is one of them, Saraswati is one of them, Kali is one of them, Tripura Sundari, Parvati, Lakshmi. So these are all goddesses, the 10 goddesses of Sri Vidya, and the one that they consider to be the most powerful one, or the goddess of the three worlds, is Tripura Sundari. And a lot of how Tripura Sundari is depicted, or presented, a lot of her images, she is considered to be the goddess of the sun and the moon. So you have most of the books describe her so beautiful. I mean, she has the sun and the moon in her breast. So the sun is, it's just such a beautiful understanding of her aspect. It's just a beautiful description. And it is very similar when I look at ancient paganism. Like when I read about paganism, they worship what is called as the triple goddess, and the triple goddess is very similar to the Tripura Sundari, which is also the goddess of the three worlds. So it's so interesting that throughout history, how connected these, I want to say sacrilegious aspects of any religion have been. They've been so similar. Like I had mentioned, Gnosis talks about Mary Magdalene and talks about she being the divine partner of Christ. And it's I always, as a person who's always into spiritual texts and learning more, I definitely feel I never know enough, but I always feel that history is very tainted. And as much as I love reading the religious sacred texts, it's very important to be careful about the interpretation that you're reading, because it's all about how the person that is interpreting the text is conforming the person who's reading it. So in my opinion, it's very important to go back as you can to get your hands on something very ancient. So like the Zohar, I would, in the Kabbalah, I would recommend you read that than to read any other text on the Kabbalah. And the similar goes with Tantra as well, the Shiva Stotram. And another really good book is the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, which is actually, there's a beautiful translation of it by Lauren Roche in English. And actually I have put a picture of me with that book in one of my Instagram posts. And if you see it, that's it's called the Radiant Sutras. And it is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful book. When I read it, I thought it was the most amazing love story I have ever read in my entire life. It just takes you to another place. So it is a conversation between Shiva and Parvati, who's his consort. And Shiva is explaining to Parvati how one can understand him. So she's asking her husband, she's asking her divine counterpart, can you tell me like what all these people that are seeking you, how are they going to be able to attain you? How are they able to attain your presence within their being? And so for this, Shiva gives like a description of, it's almost like in a very poetic, romantic way that he tells his wife how one can know him. And it is just, it's breathing techniques, it's meditation techniques, and just so beautifully described, I would highly encourage you to read that book. The translation by Lauren Roche is very beautiful, so I would encourage you to read that. Another really good text on Tantra, or understanding in depth Tantra, is Illuminating Tantra by Christopher Wallace. And I read that text, and Christopher is very, very bright. He's done his PhD, and a lot of the Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma is ancient Dharma. That's what it means. Sanatan means old and ancient and historic. So he's very, very learned and very, very well versed. So I would encourage you to read that text as well. And do you guys have any questions for me? Let me know. I know this was a lot, but I don't want to like bombard you with too much information. This was, to me, Tantra resonates the most because it's very close to Hermeticism to me. It's very close to not just, conforming yourself to one aspect or one form, but it's more of empowering yourself. It's more of getting yourself to, getting a higher state of awareness within yourself about your own journey, right? So I always think of it this way. We are here and we have these, different lives that we've lived. We've had so many different lives, and each life comes with its own story. So we have our own story to live. We have our own purpose, and we have, it's very spiritual, yes. We have our own, path to kind of walk. And every path that we're walking in each lifetime is all about becoming better versions of ourselves. We're learning lessons on the way, and we're trying to do the best we can with the level of awareness we have. And so why not expand that level of awareness every time? And, once you're drawn, like I said, all of you amazing souls that, are drawn to the information I post, or, it's the truth. It's who we are. It's what, gives us a deeper meaning about ourselves and our purpose here on earth. And so Tantra offers you that unrestricted way. Interested in this kind of learning. Would you make any other recommendation for people just starting their tantric spiritual learning? Yeah, I would recommend Christopher Wallace's book Illuminating Tantra, because he definitely goes through the history. He goes through the core concepts. He really explains the two margas, but I think his main his deepest knowledge is with Shiva Tantra, which is the northern Tantra. So I would recommend reading his book for sure. And he's written recently, he's done a second version or second edition to the book as well. So I would recommend that as well. I do definitely recommend Lauren Roche's book, Radiant Sutras. They're beautiful meditations. See, Tantra Yoga, and I teach, when I teach this at the B School of Light, when I taught it in the healthcare facilities, this, to me, Tantra Yoga it really can be done by anybody. It's not something that needs a certain level of flexibility. It doesn't need like too much movement in your body. It's more of a meditative movement along with mantras, along with breath work. It's a combination of so many things. And when you think about, when I always say like love, right? I always talk about love and how important love is. And I'll tell you, in Tantra, you need to find that love way before you go on to the tantric path, because it is a It's like the Kundalini needs to reach her husband. She needs to reach Shiva. And the only way she's going to be able to do that if she feels that love for him. So it's like it's kind of like putting milk. Like this was a very beautiful way my guru taught me what it means to raise your Kundalini. It's like you boil the milk, like you put milk on a stove and you just put the heat on, and you physically can't make that milk, boil up and kind of, you can't do it, but the heat will slowly, the heat is going to do its part by boiling the milk within. So you have to do your part, which is, practice the yamas and niyamas. I always emphasize on that. And if you don't know what yamas and niyamas are, we'll talk about that in the next time. It's basically certain aspects of following like a disciplined life, having restraint, having control, having a disciplined practice. You need to have that first. After that, you have the curiosity, you have the interest in expanding your mind in various different ways. And so you search, which you all are doing, we all are doing. We're searching for ways to empower our mind and empower our bodies. And that is swadhyaya. In Sanskrit, it is called swadhyaya, which means self-study. You're just going to take a book by yourself. You're going to watch a YouTube video by yourself. You're going to kind of take the initiative. And that initiative is very, very important. So you take the initiative and you just set on your path. You just get on the path, and ideas, inspirations, hunches come forward because you're seeking. And you will know, it would kind of tell you like, what, I'm going to jump on and listen to what this person has to say, or I'm going to you're going to get attracted to the energies that are going to pull you in the direction where you're meant to go. But you have to have an open mind. And Tantra is that path, because it really allows you to stay expanded and do you, because it's all about where you are going to be. I like to think of it like as your 2.0 version, right? We all have this 1.0 version of ourselves that we're looking to change, and we're looking to be better versions of that. And we're like, we want to go to the next, it is incredible. Yeah, absolutely agree. So we want to get to the next version of ourselves and get into that place where we can feel empowered. And Tantra allows for that power to come within you. And the different ritual, practices, the different ways that you can do that is beautifully depicted in the text. I always say, but I'm also, how early have these paths formed in one's life. I believe that if one is curious in this lifetime, if one is curious, it is because he has attained a certain level of knowledge in a previous life. So this is from the Bhagavad Gita, and I know I've never spoken about the Bhagavad Gita here, but I will one day. And in the Bhagavad Gita, it says that Krishna tells Arjuna that if you have, say you spent this time in this lifetime learning a particular path, say you take up Ashtanga Yoga and you are learning Ashtanga Yoga like a true yogi, you're practicing it every day, you're reading the texts, you're practicing them, everything you need to do. And say, life happens and you die, right? And the next birth that you're going to have, you're automatically going to be in a surrounding that is going to take you to the next level. So you have completed a certain aspect of your growth in one life, and then you move on to the next life, but then maybe you're born in a surrounding where you are connected with people very early in your life. So say it could be your parents are into spirituality, it could be the people around you, or maybe you have a really hard life that pushes you to spirituality, before everybody else. Like you have an awakening when you're 15 years old, or 16 years old, and that pushes you towards spirituality. So it never goes waste. Wherever you are, in whichever point of your life you're in, you can pick up a spiritual text and know that it's gonna carry forth for your next life, that you're still gonna be getting to a higher level the next time around. And as much of a drag this sounds, if, as I said before, if the things I'm talking about, the things I'm saying resonates with you, then you've done this. You have done this seeking for many lives. I don't doubt it. And I always say, most of the souls that have incarnated here are very old souls. The souls that are on the earth right now are very, very old souls. And they know this. And they're just going to find their own way. They're going to find their own way. They're going to know what they need to do to get back to their original state, which was, like I say, Atlantean or Lemurian. They're going to go back to that original state by acquiring this knowledge. See, all of these are paths. Like in the Yoga Sutras, there are 8 paths. So Tantra is its own, however, it's a path. And the north is a path, and the south is a path. And you have to read it to know what is going to resonate with you. You might not resonate with the northern path. I mean, there's some things that when I read these texts, there are things that, sit well with me and some things that don't. Some things that I'm like, I think they're slanted off of the writer that's writing it. So you have to read it with a very objective mind. I always say, don't take anything for granted. I'm not a person who would just blindly accept something. It comes from a very deep knowing. It's a very deep knowing or faith in something that allows you to not procrastinate when you're asked to do 1,080 mantras. You're not going to procrastinate because it comes from a very, very deep place. So when I chant, for me, it's like a part of me. It's, if I'm doing my practice in the morning and at night, I do it without procrastination because it's natural. I believe in it. I do it because I know it is what is working for me. It is what is doing what it's supposed to do. It's expanding my mind day by day. I'm interested in new things every day. I'm able to create new things every day. And that is what is each one of our potential. Each one of us has this potential to reach an expanded state of being. And these different paths show us that. Yes. Find the opposite and keep what resonates with you. I absolutely agree. Yeah. I mean, you have to... idealistic way of thinking is the ideal way of thinking. I completely agree. So in that regards, I'm very much... I think that Hermeticist is very deeply ingrained in my soul. Hermetics is just, something that I search for in every sacred text I read. I look for the all, the all that, Hermes talks about. And I see it. I see it in every single text, whether it's the Quran or whether it's the Testament or whether it's the Bhagavad Gita. It all talks about the all and attaining the all and attaining the divine. So the mystic codes, yeah. Well, I feel like codes are very individual. It'll come to you, I believe. It's when you see light codes and people talking about light codes, and I have very close dear friends of mine. I don't know if you follow Felipe Abraz. He's an artist, and I actually had gotten some drawings from him. I in my Instagram I have his one of the posts that has his stuff. I actually order it for my school as well. So interdimensional drawings are similar to yantras, and there's a certain way of reading them, and that comes with reading the subtle body energy. So it's not, obviously it is something that one develops over time, and to me it's like the map of the subtle body, and how one's subtle body is it's in, like most energy reads, it's about knowing what is the highest attainment of that individual in this life journey. So it's kind of like a projection that you see of the individual's if the individual follows his most expanded state of being, what are his potentials, his or her potentials in this lifetime? And that is what kind of the subtle energy is showing sometimes. It's like when you get into the energy field, and if I a lot of my sessions, I'm able to tell where their path is leading them if they follow that highest expanded state of being. And mental alignment is very vibrational. Yeah, it's all about energy, frequency, and vibration. So Tantra is very much about vibration. It's very much about your own energy in the body. So it talks about the Kundalini, it talks about the chakras. It's a knowledge of the chakras and the Kundalini. So if you haven't already, like, definitely watch the video again if you can on the energy body that I had posted on YouTube. And really it is working with your own body's energy to expand. Each of your chakras have immense potential. They have immense potential to empower your journey. A lot of these abilities and siddhis are acquired by activating your chakras. And once the Kundalini is awakened, it is a purely magical journey. It's not always fun. It's a lot of pain, but it's a magical one nonetheless. In religion's a lot more afterlife. Tantra is more reaching your godhood and freedom. Absolutely, it's all about bringing the divine within yourself. So it is, to me, it is the the path that leads you to that Satya Yoga type of living. Within, it doesn't, like, the 5D consciousness or 5D state of being is can be attained on the Tantric Marga. It can be attained, and with those meditation movements, the breath work, the discipline, and swadhyaya. Because Tantra, expansion of the mind comes with knowledge. So reading is very important, keeping a very, very open mind religion is so not a part of this. It's so not a part of this, and maybe that's why I resonate with Theosophy so much, because, I'm at probably many lifetimes I've done it too, but religion is not a part of this. This is purely spiritual. This is purely understanding the divine, the creator, the all, the supercomputer, whatever you want to call it. I sometimes call it the supercomputer, and we're in a matrix. I absolutely call it that sometimes, but it is all about knowing that, and there's no ifs, ands, and buts. There's no religion, nothing to hold you back. I don't like to associate with one. When people ask me what my faith is, I don't even know what to say to that, so I don't answer that question. It's really, and that love, I cannot emphasize this, bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is the love. Fall in love, and your Kundalini is activated. Boom. You fall in love. You don't even, like I said, you don't need a physical person to fall in love. You feel the love. You feel the expansion in your heart. And a lot of the kirtans, or the mantra chanting, or the sounds of mantra, or the kirtan sounds, like, we had that individual from Vrindavan who joined us the last time. They are all sounds that can help us reach a vibration that is very, very high. And when we are in that high vibrational state, you're able to activate your Kundalini. You're able to, shake it around and let it, start feeling that love. In that love vibration, it rises higher. So that vibration is very, very important. So I hope this was interesting for you guys, and it was a interesting discussion. I am going to try to save this and put this up on YouTube. If Fingers crossed. I'm not always lucky. It doesn't always let me do that. So I hope I can this time. And I'm gonna really try, I think Dana is on this, if she's still watching, if Dana, you're still on, from the Theosophical Society. I'm actually gonna be doing, oh, she's right here. Okay, yeah, it absolutely would resonate with so many people. And I am actually very excited to do the recording with Tim, and we'll do that Q&A, and we'll definitely have it, put out here. I'm going to put it on YouTube. So if you haven't already, subscribed to YouTube, Kavita Beri MD, please do subscribe to that. And then I'm going to, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I'm excited to talk to Tim, and so that interview is going to be very interesting. We're going to have a really deep discussion on theosophy, and we're going to put that out on YouTube, and I'll put a little bit out here as well. So I hope you guys found this interesting. So stay in love, stay awesome, always be in the search, and lots of love to you guys. All right. So I will see you. I'll think of a good topic for next week. And so stay blessed and always be on the search. For sure. For sure. I would be very honored to connect with him. That would be amazing. So thank you for joining today, Dana. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, Ben. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.